The opinions expressed in this show are the views of the host and not necessarily that of WTRW, 94.3 The Talker, or the Bold Gold Media Group.
The following presentation is paid for by Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate, who is solely responsible for its content. Portions transcribed.
All Century 21 real estate offices are independently owned and operated.
Hi, I'm Jackie Ruddy, broker of Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate. Welcome to the Real Estate Roundtable on 94.3 FM The Talker. I am here with my co-host, fellow realtor, husband, Pat Devaney.
Good morning, Jackie. How are you today?
Don't ask.
Why not? It's December 23rd.
I know. And guess what's coming? Like a freight train.
Christmas. But also the days are going to start getting longer. So.
Yes. And I do always appreciate that time of year. You know it.
Yes.
I feel like I made it. I survived. Merry Christmas, Pat.
Merry Christmas, dear.
Today we have with us John Rhodes, supervisor at Stag Tree Service. Matthew Rosensweet is the owner and your boss.
Yes.
And he sent you on his behalf today. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're here every Saturday at 11 a.m., Sunday at 11:30 a.m., where we review many real estate topics. We have an exceptional real estate office with many full-time realtors who've been listing, selling, and appraising real estate for 50-plus years.
During the week, feel free to email us with any questions you have, or if you'd like to suggest a topic, send it to questions@jruddy.com. That's questions@jruddy.com, or you can give us a call at 570-344-6724. And when you go to jruddy.com, click on the webcam tab, and we have a camera listed on top of the building at the more corners. Look in there, and you can see what the weather is and what's going on at the corners.
Check us out on social media, view our listings, search the MLS listings, and listen to archive radio shows by going to mobile-friendly jruddy.com. That's jruddy.com. Before we get started with Stag Tree Service, I want to say hi to Bill. I don't know Bill's last name, but Bill came into our office and let us know that he listens to the radio show week after week, and he wants to do some business with us. So thank you, Bill, for listening. And I hope you hear us say hello to you.
Hi, Bill. Merry Christmas.
All right. John Rhodes, you are a supervisor at
Yes.
Stag Tree Service. Can you give us a little background on Stag Tree Service, where you're located, how long Stag Tree has been in business, and how long you've been doing what you do?
So we're located right off of 380, the Gouldsboro exit. We service from, obviously, Gouldsboro, Albrightsville, Clark Summit, East Stroudsburg. Did a little bit of work in New Jersey and Blairstown. I have been with Stag Tree 2.5 years. Actually, Matt, him and I both grew up together as childhood best friends. And before working here, I was working in northern New Jersey, and traveling literally from here to New Jersey every day, 2 hours on Interstate 80 was
I know
not
all
too
about
fun.
it. Yeah, I know about that.
Trying to get home, and the wife's calling, asking where you are, and you're stuck in 2-hour traffic, and it's 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. So that started to, weigh in on things. Out in New Jersey, I was in charge of 25 guys doing utility line clearance for Jersey Central Power and Light. And, Matt was growing substantially, and he would do the estimates, answer the phone call, cut the tree, kind of doing
Everything.
a lot.
One-man show.
Yeah, and this time it's definitely hard to find guys or, even women that want to work.
Or show up? You mean show up?
Or show up. So basically he was, like I said, growing at a substantially high rate, and instead of setting the guys up, leaving, going to do estimates, he said, I could really use somebody that I trust to meet with a customer or, schedule the work or even price out a job. So that way, the company is efficient and profitable. And, for the longest time I said, Matt, I don't want to show up to work, have a bad day, ruin our friendship. And, you hear horror stories of that happening all the time. and he kept nagging me and, hey, could
He
really
knew you were
use
the
it,
right man.
Nagging you. Was he married to you? I mean, I have no idea what it's like to work with family.
Or the definition of a nag.
No, I wouldn't know about that.
No.
So eventually, 2.5 years later, I made the commitment, and
You haven't turned back
best
since.
decision I've made. We laugh. Our wives kind of get mad at us because even after 8 hours of work, we're calling each other. Where are we going tomorrow? What equipment do we need? How do you think today went? So it's a nonstop
working.
thing, but I live and breathe by it, and so does he. And I couldn't be more happy or proud to be working with my best friend to help grow our outfit and our company.
Okay, trees. This time of year, you taking them down?
24/7.
All right. So when you go look at a job and you give an estimate,
Yes.
and it's not cheap.
No, I do 99% of the estimates now, as well as scheduling and customer interaction. Obviously Matt has the business number, so the phone call, goes to him. They'll leave a message. He sends it to me. Not to cut you off, I kind of just picked up, but if you want to finish your question about being cheap.
No, nothing's cheap. Nothing's cheap.
Yeah,
all right, let's forget about that. Nothing's cheap.
Yeah, but it's expensive to
Yes,
take
it
a
is.
tree.
Of course it is.
So do you ever tell somebody not to take a tree down?
All the time.
Okay.
And that's the integrity of our outfit. I've from Goldsboro, or even I've been in Clark Summit and get a phone call, and the only estimate I have for the rest of the day is in East Stroudsburg. Well, I gotta travel. I'm not going to tell them no, based on their schedule of when they can meet or what my schedule's like. And I show up, and they show me their concern, and I say, hey, Mrs. Smith, everything's fine. It looks great. It's got leaves. It's not showing any signs of dieback or decay at the root base, and shake their hand, appreciate the phone call, keep us, in mind in the future, and drive back.
So you are qualified to look at a tree and determine whether it's healthy or not?
Yeah, so we're certified through the Tree Care Industry Association. So they kind of set standards of what to look for, when evaluating a tree, proper pruning practices of, hey, we're trimming a Bradford pear or a Japanese maple, or, each species is kind of unique on proper pruning practices, and also how much to prune off of a tree. So those are the standards that we follow. I'm also certified through the Tree Care Industry. They have what's called a CTSP, Certified Tree Care Safety Professional. It's a long. I like saying CTSP. It's a lot shorter. As far as safety, and when I got the credential, I thought, okay, it's how to properly start a chainsaw, or what PPE to wear, and it was more beyond the safety aspect of the industry. It went into how to safely lead one guy over another guy based on, their experience, or how well they took to, are they more hands-on, or are they more verbal? So that was also very helpful, as in a management position, leading, employees. Everybody's unique in how they learn something or how they pick something up. So, following guidelines through the tree care industry has been helpful. And when you could relate to somebody and say, hey, we are TCIA certified, this is what they recommend, and this is what we practice, kind of gives that, reassurance. It's not like I'm just out there rambling on, and stuff like that.
Right. So you can just look at a tree at a glance, like the way Jackie can look at a house and
Right.
tell you if it's a pile of junk. You can look and you can say, that tree's healthy.
Yep.
That tree needs this. And when we have a situation in our neighborhood, there was a guy, he didn't like trees.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't like trees. So I don't know who he had come and cut these oak trees, but he butchered.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a good word,
he
butchered.
Butchered them, and they still haven't recovered. And now it's about 10 years later, and these trees are about 75 feet tall, and they look like a stalk of broccoli that had everything cut off on the sides. And I'm just waiting for this thing to come down.
Yeah, and I try to tell people, and I'll start with you saying, when I show up, I could tell if something's...
Well, he wanted it because he thought that this tree was putting too much shade on his pool.
Right, which we get a lot of. And once again, the integrity of our outfit, instead of delimbing it to basically just a stick...
That's what he did.
Which...
It's an eyesore.
Well, and that's the thing, too, is when we cut something down, other than making sure we're not doing any damage or anybody's getting hurt, that's one side of the spectrum. But when you're trimming something or pruning, it's not going to, the tree is still there. So it becomes an eyesore if you don't do it properly. And a lot of times pruning or trimming ends up being more expensive than cutting the tree down, because you have to make the proper cut, because you want it to look, aesthetic, so to speak. You don't want the neighbor coming out saying, who the heck did you have prune your tree? And, then our name is on that. Yeah, I try to tell people it's like a fine wine or an art to make sure that the tree is pruned properly, it looks good, and has the potential to have healthy growth.
So it's got to come back. You just can't cut like 75% of the stuff off.
No, so through the tree care industry, they state no more than a third.
A third.
So if you have a 30-foot
That's a
tall
good rule.
tree... Yep.
I knew there was a rule. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, so a 30-foot tall tree, I tell people, you take 10 foot off the top, or, 33% of the top and the sides. What I'm assuming happened to your neighbor is... when you do something like that and delimb everything, and it's called epicormic growth or stress growth, the tree realizes, holy cow, I just got, 90
Butchered.
or 75% of my vegetation that was healthy taken away. Now I got to try and regrow as quick as I can to sustain the health. And another thing that they state is the growth from those open wounds. They're very weak points and attachments. And once again, just doesn't look aesthetic whatsoever. So at that juncture, I would tell him, hey, instead of making this tree look ugly or unaesthetic, or even for the health of the tree, and to gain what you're looking for, end goal is sunlight to your pool, let's just cut the tree down and be done with it.
I just figured he was trying to save money.
Yeah.
It looks like the people actually maybe left the job, didn't get paid.
Right.
I mean, right in the middle of it. We don't know.
Yeah, and that's
the irony of this is that he moved, and the people who bought the house are filling in the pool.
Right. So it's and that's the thing is, like we were saying, everything is unique in pricing. I've had people call and tell me I have this small tree in my front yard, not very big, 20-minute job, how much to do it? I'll send you a picture. Well, pictures don't do it justice, and we all know that from everything. I've done them where I said, feel free to send me a picture, but estimates are obviously free. I'd like to come out, look at it. Maybe there's something else that we could tackle while we're here. The mobilization is already absorbed in the job. And, I see myself within our company as an advisor. So when I show up to a property, like you said, as soon as I pull in the driveway, I could pick out 5 or 6 things right off the bat. Have a homeowner tell me, I want this small tree down. And, I say, hey, Mrs. Smith, this tree on your driveway that's starting to uproot or is more than a third of the way dead should be your priority. Aesthetics are second, hazards are take priority over anything else. So it's not one of those to make a mountain out of a molehill and not do the small tree and do the big tree. It's one of those where I say, see something, say something.
Look at the whole picture.
Whether you do it or not, at least if I leave there and we did the small tree and Mrs. Smith say, well, why didn't you tell me about the dead one? Well, I kind of covered all bases and did let her know. And I've had people, still not do it. But at the end of the day, at least I went there and, addressed it. Each tree has its own price. That small tree that someone thinks is in the wide open could have a house drop service wire coming from, the main primary wire out on the road into the house. they think we're going to just notch it at the base and drop it. Well, if we did that, it's taking your power out. So every job, every tree, every customer, everything has paved driveway, gravel driveway. Gravel driveways are nice because, a hard rake afterwards and you can't even tell we were there. So obviously if you have a paved driveway, more time, more caution, more, handling and positive control takes effect so we don't do damage.
You have mats and things like that you can put
So
down.
we have 15 ground protection mats that disperse 60,000 pounds of weight. We've put them in driveways. We've put them across yards due to turf damage or, to prevent turf damage. Areas where it's a little wet, especially this time of year, and we still, need to provide service for a customer, we'll lay out 15 to 20 mats to, get the equipment closer to our work. So that's another thing that takes time. I tell people quality work isn't cheap and cheap work isn't quality. I could do it cheaper, but you're going to notice the end result. It takes one picture on social media to say, wow, my tree's done, but look what Stag Tree did to my, brand new yard. And that's something we try to prevent. We try to make it look like we weren't even there or, even better, especially this time of year with leaves coming down. Half the time everybody gets a free leaf cleanup because they just haven't gotten to it. And, between the sawdust and branches and twigs in yards, we clean up, and the lasting impression is the focal point to our work.
Let me ask you a question. So, trees have a tendency to lean.
Yes.
And if I'm looking at a tree and it's leaning, one way, is it safe to say, you know the answer to this, I don't. Is it safe to say the way it's leaning will be the way it falls, if it should fall?
Depends on how hard of the lean, and also the angle of terrain that it's on. Generally, I would say 95% of the time, if a tree has a significant lean, roughly even 25 or 40%, 9 times out of 10, I could tell you where it's going to go. But I also tell people Mother Nature makes me a liar all the time.
Yeah.
I tell people, your tree looks good. And a month later, I get a phone call. The tree that looks good. So I tell people if we're talking about a tree leaning or a potential concern of should we take it down or shouldn't we, I can vouch and guarantee that if we take it down, it's going to be done, professionally and safely. If Mother Nature takes it down, we don't really know what's going to happen at that point.
Yeah, we have a couple Mother Nature stories that we'll be telling the listeners in a little bit.
Yeah. Yep.
But before we go to break, we have John Rhodes, supervisor with Stag Tree Service out of Goldsboro. How does someone get in touch with Stag Tree, please?
So we have all forms of social media, Facebook page, Instagram. You could look us up on Google. There's several reviews on there to, reassure a potential estimate or even us doing work. And then we can also be reached at 570-647-9593 is our direct line.
Say that again.
Reached at 570-647-9593.
Thank you, John. Pat, would you like to review a listing?
Yes,
please?
we have a beautiful 3-bedroom, 3-bath brick ranch-style home at 154 Slish Road in Honesdale for $375,000. This home sits on 2.5 acres of land. This modern home has a large master bedroom suite, a partially finished lower level, a family room with a fireplace, and an attached 2-car garage, and a large back deck. It also has, you'll like this, it's got a 40 by 30 pole barn with 100 amp electrical service to do work on anything you want to do, or just you can store some stuff in there. If you got cars, you can stick them in there. That's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath brick ranch-style home at 154 Slish Road in Honesdale for $375,000, and that's listed by Nicole Clark of our office.
Oh, thank you, Pat.
You're welcome.
CNBC says, from the youngest Americans to the oldest, most seem to be managing their credit pretty well. In the United States, the average, do you want to take a crack at this? What's the average credit score, Pat?
720.
You are so close. 716. That's as per Experian. That's from the second quarter in 2023. when you break down the average credit score by age, the typical American is hovering near or above that score. So for members of Gen Z, and that's defined as people 18 to 26 years old, the average credit score is 680. Meanwhile, the average credit score for people 78 or older is the highest. And that they're the silent generation. You would expect that, right? 761. It makes sense that the oldest generation would have the highest credit scores.
Right.
Okay.
They don't have to borrow as much, hopefully.
Millennials, that's from 27 to 42 years old, average credit score is 690. Gen X, from 43 to 58, is 709. And baby boomers, that's you, 59 to 77 years old, average is 745.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Credit scores can fall anywhere between 300 and 850. And so this is how it's looked at. Poor is under 549. Fair credit is 550 to 669. Good is 670 to 739. Very good is 740 to 799. Exceptional is 800 to 850.
And credit scores affect so much. It affects your car insurance, all kinds of things. It's good to have a high credit score.
Yeah, if you want to boost your credit score, best thing to do is get your balances down, pay on time. But it does take time to straighten that stuff out. But if you want to buy a house, that's what you got to do, right?
That's right.
Okay, so our sponsor this week is Jack Ruddy Appraisal Services.
I know them.
Yeah, you do. They have been appraising homes for 50 years. Our appraisal service is for those looking to uncover the appraised value of their property. That could be for a divorce, an estate, inheritance tax issues, mortgage, refinancing, you name it, we do it. Look no further than Jack Ruddy Appraisal Service, your trusted appraisal company. We utilize the latest technology and market insights to deliver accurate and timely property valuations. Whether you're buying, selling, or just curious, Jack Ruddy Appraisal Services is your key to informed decisions. Do you like what I did there? Your key? Contact us today at 570-344-6724, 570-344-6724 for a professional appraisal experience. Jack Ruddy Appraisal Services, where your property's worth is our top priority. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate at 94.3 FM The Talker. We'll be right back. When considering to sell or buy a home, why choose Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate? Let me tell you why. 70% of home buyers settle for the first agent they meet, and many regret it. 90% of home sellers hire an agent, but was it the right choice? Don't have agent remorse. I'm Jackie Ruddy, and I've been in and around the real estate business for most of my life. And at Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate, we've been selling real estate for half a century. But we do not do it halfway. You deserve better than average. Average doesn't help you. We know it's all about you and what you need. Century 21 is the #1 in brand awareness, is the most recognized name in real estate, and is the most respected in the industry. In this market, if you dream big, you need to move fast. So it makes perfect sense to contact Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate, 570-344-6724, and visit jruddy.com. That's JRUDDY.com. We're back with more Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21 Jack Ruddy Real Estate on 94.3 FM The Talker. I'm Jackie Ruddy, broker, and with Pat Devaney, my husband, fellow realtor.
And we're back.
We are back with John Rhodes, who is a supervisor with Stag Tree Service. Matthew Rosensweet is the owner. You're based out of Goldsboro. So, regarding trees, right before the break, we were talking about how a tree leans, and sometimes that's the way it will fall if it falls, but not always the case. So don't assume it, right?
Right.
Okay. So taking down trees is risky business.
But I have a chainsaw.
Yeah, I know you do.
I have a chainsaw.
It's actually one of the most dangerous.
Well, let me tell you, my dad was a tree pruner for the Park Service in New York in the 50s, and one of his fingers had got cut off, and it was like they put it back on crooked, so he would hold his hand up and he'd go, "It's 2.5." But anyway, it is risky business. But I get a kick out of it because I'm watching some of these YouTube videos and I see these nitwits I mean guys, or people, go up into the trees and they'll either drop the tree on the house or they'll have the bump. They'll try and pull it with their truck and they rip the bumper off.
Well, you have a truck and you have...
I have a truck.
Yeah,
I do. I can do this.
And
I
you
can
have
do this.
chains.
I have a chain.
Yeah.
I can do this.
Yeah.
I don't care how big that tree is. I'm not afraid.
See it all the time. It's pretty scary when, we look or see those, what we call them, funny YouTube videos, but also scary to...
Dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Right. So there's a lot of harm that could be done to themselves, to others, property, you name it. It's not good. But my mother had a tree in her backyard and never showed any signs of being diseased or any problems, structural or otherwise. And it was a really wet summer, spring and summer, and it just lifted out of the earth a huge oak.
Yep.
And it came down.
The diameter, it had to be 6 foot in diameter. It was unbelievably
Massive.
Massive.
So
Massive.
that's a good example of this summer with how much rain we got. It's not like we got, a quarter inch over a day. We were getting inches in an hour. And then with that, these root systems obviously can only soak up so much water. So anything past that is just standing groundwater at that time. And when you get a gust of wind with how saturated the soils become, healthy trees that you would never think or consider, that Mother Nature effect takes place. And this year was definitely a busy year with stuff like that. And that's why I revert back to telling people you just never know. Hurricane season, inches of rain at a time, 60, 70 mile an hour wind gusts. The leaves on a tree, each season has, its own risk factors. Hurricane season, the winter with the ice and the snow. In the summer, when you have a large oak tree, the canopies with the leaves on them have more surface area. So also, even though the ground's saturated, it almost acts like a kite.
It's a big giant sail.
And that's exactly what it is. Pine trees in the winter obviously don't, most of them don't lose their needles and they sway up there in the wind. It's endless with, different things that happen in inclement weather that deters, or creates some of these issues.
Well, so then there was a frenzy in the neighborhood. And after that situation, because no one saw that happening, and so there was a frenzy in the neighborhood, and her one neighbor to the other side wound up taking down 2 or 3 trees as a result because they were so close to that house.
And saw it probably.
Yeah, and they just didn't want to risk it.
Yeah.
And we took down a tree as well because it was aimed right towards my son's bedroom. And so we made sure, that I have to say, we wanted to...
That was a good move.
Yeah, we, wanted to take a positive...
And then, like you say, he started taking down other trees when he was there, too.
Well, and that's... In doing residential for 2.5 years now, I tell people that there's a rhyme or reason to take down any tree. And we try to preserve the healthy ones because there are so many things out there, destroying or decaying these trees. Whether it's leaning at your child's bedroom or too much shade and you want to create more sunlight, or you're just sick of simply cleaning up the leaves in the summertime. It's really endless. And I never thought that I could sit here and talk to somebody of how many different rhymes or reasons there are to actually it roots into a foundation. It's
endless.
Endless. It really is.
John Rhodes, supervisor at Stag Tree Service. Thank you so much for your time today. How does someone get in touch with Stag Tree?
We have multiple social media platforms, our Facebook page, Instagram. You could look us up on Google. And also our direct line is 570-647-9593.
And we'll see you next week.
Yes. Can't wait.
You.
Thank you.
Pat.
Yes, we have it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath home at 740 Weaver Town Road in Shavertown for $350,000. This home sits on almost 7 acres of land, and it's got a pond. This could be subdivided. The rear yard, there's plenty of privacy. It's fenced in. It's got a pool. There's landscaping. It's got a covered patio area. And also inside this home, this ranch, it's got beautiful hardwood floors. There's also a large 40 by 30 pole barn We seem to be having a lot of those this week, right? So that would be perfect to store your vehicles, your equipment, or anything you want inside this insulated building. That's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath ranch-style home on almost 7 acres of land with a pond at 740 Weavertown Road in Shavertown for $350,000. That's listed by Connie Seagraves of our office.
Merry Christmas to all our listeners. Remember, we're back in next Saturday at 11 a.m., Sunday at 11:30 a.m. for more Real Estate Roundtable with Century 21, Jack Ruddy Real Estate, and 94.3 The Talker.